Folks, I am here with Dr. Stephen Rogelberg. Hello, Stephen. How are you?
Good to be here, Craig.
I am so glad to have you here. Thanks for doing this on Zoom. We are in two different physical locations. I've been looking forward to this for literally months now. And Stephen, if I'm honest, probably years, because as I said to you in our little preamble here a minute ago, I've been using your fantastic book in my coursework and in my workshops and master courses all over the place for a long time. So thank you for that as well.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Let me do a quick introduction, and then we're gonna dive into our conversation.
Okay.
So Dr. Rogelberg is a professor and director of organizational science at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. He has had multiple Professor of the Year honors, teaching honors, and awards over the years, has been published and written in over 100, probably many more than that, Stephen, publications on subjects ranging from engagement to leadership to teams, and of course, meeting effectiveness. You've also been a visiting scholar literally all over the globe in different institutions. You were the recipient of the Humboldt Award, which is a very prestigious award for your research. And then, of course, the way I discovered you, thankfully, was that you're the author of this amazing book, The Surprising Science of Meetings, which the Washington Post, by the way, named the #1 leadership book to watch out for. So that's why I'm excited to have this conversation. There's a lot to say about this subject. Let's dive in if we can. Is that all right?
I'm thrilled. Let's do it.
Okay, so let me start with the traps, Stephen. So what are the things that we should watch out for, the common traps that people fall into when it comes to this most common of subjects, running meetings?
Okay, so there's so many common traps. So first of all, one trap is recycling bad meeting practices that we've experienced, right? So we might be complaining about our meetings nonstop, but we wind up doing the exact things that we experience in other meetings.
And I'm guilty of that too, by the way. I'm guilty of that too. And I teach this stuff like you do. So please, okay.
Another trap is just meeting out of habit, right? So it's on the calendar. We do this every Tuesday, but we're not really thinking. We're just kind of doing these habits. Another trap is assuming we are not the problem, right? So we often think that it's everyone else that's running bad meetings and not us. But frankly, the research suggests is that we all have a responsibility and we all have opportunity to do better. Another trap is over-inviting, good intentioned over-inviting, right? We might be over-inviting because we want to be inclusive, but over-inviting creates tremendous problems. And typically we over-invite out of laziness because we don't really want to think carefully about who truly needs to be there.
Right, right.
And then I'd probably say the last thing is, never trying new things. We tend to run our meetings the same way. We're just not all that creative or innovative in our meetings. So for example, if you're a meeting leader and you've never tried silence in your meetings, right? This is something you should try, because research shows that when people brainstorm in silence, they actually generate nearly twice as many ideas. And those ideas are more innovative and creative.
I love this. I mean, we talk about, in a much different way, Stephen, in our course, we talk about creating salespeople and leaders who are both magnetic and unstoppable, two of our favorite words. And one of the things that we talk about is pausing and silence as a way to be present to people. I love how you're changing, you're reframing that a little bit in terms of innovation in meetings. I love that. And I should say, it takes preparation, doesn't it? I mean, it really helps. We have to take time to say, okay, how might I do something differently?
Well, you absolutely hit it. And that is possibly one of the biggest traps, is that before a meeting, we just don't take a couple minutes to think about it.
Yeah.
That's all it takes, is just a couple minutes to say, okay, how can I make this meeting something that's meaningful and effective and exciting for attendees? And our research shows it doesn't take much time, but you just have to be willing to step back and take those 2 minutes.
One of the things, I mean, your book and your work inspired me to really dig deeper into this. One of the things that I often say to our students and worldwide, and obviously my Kellogg students, is that meetings are like breathing, because we don't think about it. Except, this is a subject, health and wellness, that you actually also know a heck of a lot about. When we take into account our breathing, when we become conscious of our breathing, it can change our health and wellness. So I just love this. I love that you're reframing this. So and you've mentioned a couple things. I want to go a little bit deeper into this and talk about the research. What does the research suggest about meetings? And you've mentioned a couple things already, like this notion of innovation. We don't take time. We invite too many people. That's what the research suggests. Pull that thread a little bit more, Stephen. What else did you see? What surprised you in the research that you did about it?
So one area, I wouldn't say the research surprised me, but that's because I've been doing the research for over 20 years. So it's a slow, gradual process.
Fair.
But one thing that I think, often surprises other people is my research around agendas. So there's a lot of meeting leaders who think that if they have a meeting agenda, I'm a good leader.
Yeah.
And the research actually doesn't support that. And agendas in and of themselves really don't predict meeting effectiveness. And if you stop and think for a moment, it's not a surprise. First of all, meeting agendas tend to be recycled meeting after meeting. What matters more than having an agenda is what's on the agenda, right? Is it truly compelling and meaningful? And then what matters even more than that is how you facilitate those agenda items. So I think that tends to surprise people because if you open up any meetings book, chapter 1 is have an agenda.
Yep.
In my book, the chapters agendas are a hollow crutch. And so I think that, people tend to be lazy and they think that that's, all it takes, but that's so superficial. So that's one area. Let me share one other maybe surprising area.
Please.
Is that our research shows that there is I don't know if this is going to completely surprise you, Craig, but research shows that there's a tremendous disconnect between a leader's perspective on a meeting and participants. So if you interview people as they leave a meeting room, that meeting leader tends to think that meeting went really well. But the attendees don't necessarily